Sorry, my bad, muted myself there. He
No worries.
could win a world title again. You can win a world title against the Charles Martin, or you can try and win one against Oleksandr Usyk. There's a wide variety of difficulty in world title fights. So, though I genuinely do sort of believe him when he says he's not overly interested in picking up more belts. He has won every belt effectively there is to win in the heavyweight division. Although I think Tyson's capable of beating the vast majority of heavyweights, including those in and around the world title picture, maybe bar Alexander Usyk. But all roads are bound to lead to an Anthony Joshua fight. I mean, that's something I do think, despite what Tyson says, would motivate him. I think he would he would get sick of people, coming up to him. I think Tyson, there's sort of mixed reports on the people when they approach him, and it's always the AJ fight, it's the AJ fight, and that's bound to get tiresome, and that'll not go away if he never fights him. And I think he would love the size of the event, the gravitas of it. I think he relishes those big occasions, and even at this stage, when the fight is a bit past the sell by date, if we're being honest, a fight between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua would be the biggest of both men's career, and Tyson will know that, and Tyson will relish in it, and the hundreds of millions of pounds that'll no doubt come along with it wouldn't hurt either.
We have from Stuart Powell. I think this may well be it for Tyson. Jack Dutton on the 45 says, Jack, good to see you. Confirming retirement. How many times has he said he's retiring? He must come back. We need AJ versus Fury. There you go. That's the feeling from the boxing fans. Stuart also offers, I really do think that the AJ fight doesn't happen. Why would Fury take the fight? He doesn't need any more glory or more time away on a brutal training camp. Doesn't need any more dangerous blows. Does Tyson bear the mark of a fighter who's you see other fighters and you see them early in their career and what they were able to do outside of just the age factor of it, and of course heavyweight, the stakes are as high as they could ever be when it comes to taking shots and punches to the body and head. But I don't know if he bears the mark of a fighter who's taken too many blows and taken too many shots where you'd worry about him yet, doesn't he?
Yeah, but sometimes, it's not just a one size fits all with the lasting effects of a career. Some fighters can absorb more punishment than others, and that can be in the short term and the long term. So you can't say for certainty with that, although of course there are heavyweights, especially in years gone by, who've shipped a lot more punishment than Tyson Fury. And to be fair, some of them, are worse for wear for it. You don't want to necessarily go into names. People will have seen clips of faded former fighters and can maybe form an idea of who I'm talking about. I don't think that would be a concern. That's certainly not a narrative I've seen. People saying they don't want to see Tyson Fury coming back for fear for his health. Maybe people close to him might have that opinion. Obviously, they've got a very different perspective on it than your man in the street and your boxing fan. But I would agree with you. I don't think we're seeing any signs. People often refer to a fighter's speech, their cognitive ability. I don't see any difference in Tyson from that, really. So, yeah, I would agree with you on that one.
If anything, he seems to be speaking more in his retirement after the fights he's had. Jack Dutton also says, I just can't believe Tyson will want to go out with that last fight in December. That's another good point for someone who's professed to be the best of this generation. It hasn't quite materialized for him in capturing the undisputed title, but certainly could come back and make a big splash in the heavyweight scene. He won't want to the lasting image of him being a defeat. Uh, he won't want to leave that thought in people's minds. You think, Danny?
Yeah, 100%. Tyson, like all fighters, and even more than a lot of fighters, is driven by ego. It's a huge part of what it takes to get to the top. It's a staple of any top fighter's psyche, and you are remembered, rightly or wrongly, for what people have seen recently, and the lasting memory people will have is the the more. I think the round nine against Usyk in the first fight is probably the still frame, if you like, that will be remembered for people, even though the second fight happened afterwards. And defeat in any capacity is not how Tyson Fury will want to go out. He's a historian of boxing. He knows legacy does matter. He knows um, how fans react to losses, fickle bunch they may be. And I think the fact that not only the Anthony Joshua fight being his biggest fight, his longest standing rival, was potentially always something he'd be remembered by, even if it did happen earlier in his career and then he went on to fight Usyk, but even more so amplified by the fact that it would in all likelihood be his last fight, certainly his last big meaningful fight would mean that that he would be able to go out in a high if he was to fight AJ and defeat him.
And the other question that's been asked, that's going to come back to you as well too, is, and I've just lost it here. Also, who does AJ fight if it's not Fury? That's an interesting question off of the back of that defeat to Daniel Dubois and then surgery. There's a lot of time out of the ring and a lot of, I guess you want in an ideal world that confidence boosting fight to get back into the ring. But if not, then you're in with a big fighter and a contender that's dangerous. Zhang had been floated out for a number of years. Derek Chisora is chasing their 50th and final fight, and although they're friends, AJ does provide the biggest or one of the biggest pots of money when it comes to being his opponent. Will he look to chase that? But those are two names I would suggest that would be in the opposite corner to Anthony Joshua if he's not in against Tyson Fury next.
Yeah, good shouts. I think, to be honest, though, if it wasn't to be AJ Fury next, I could see AJ treading water for quite a while and trying to pick up easy paydays, even though they wouldn't compare to the scale of financial reward from a Tyson Fury fight. So you could maybe see a fight with a Dylan White, for example, before a big one, and then I think they'll see the lay of the land. Obviously, a lot will hang on the rematch between Oleksandr Usyk and Daniel Dubois. Maybe they'll have two or three softer touches, then roll the dice with Dubois again. I can't see a trilogy with Usyk happening. The Wilder fight, if Wilder gets a win in a couple of weeks now, isn't it? That could be an option. So there are still options for him. There are fights that would be financially lucrative, and he would still be a big favorite in. None would compare to Tyson Fury. I think AJ would struggle to find the motivation, to be honest. If I don't think he would retire, but I think he would. I think it would put a pop the balloon in his sort of his luster for the big fights. So it wasn't to be Tyson Fury. So Dylan White, Deontay Wilder, both names I could see AJ getting them with if it's not Fury.
Magic71, not a Tyson Fury fan, clearly. He says bad sportsmanship, lies, gaslighting, ducking, failed drugs test. Yet Fury has been one of the best examples of world champion the UK has ever had. Come on, Fury, do us all a favor, stay away. I do think you got to balance that out with a lot of good that Fury has done. Very much a man of the people, a people's champion as well too. I can certainly say I've seen myself Fury who has taken the time, and of course people are due their own time, especially people in the spotlight. You can imagine that when you're out and about, no doubt someone will catch your eye and notice you, especially when you're a 6 foot something heavyweight who's got a unique look like Tyson Fury does and a unique voice. You can't be missed when you're in the public zone. So someone like Fury who's had those spotlights, I've seen him take the time out to take a moment with the fans, even if it's him at the end of his tether as well too. He's always had that moment as well to look after, and then being a champion of mental health and advocacy. As much as people want to say about his time outside the ring, I feel that Fury has spoken with sincerity about some of the troubles he's faced, whether it been ballooning up in weight. That's just something you can physically see with your eyes, and then losing that weight to come back. This is a man who, and you like Eddie Hearn, although they're promoters and things, but he had the opportunity to sign Tyson Fury in his own words and spurred it because he thought he'd never get in the ring, and he proved him wrong, and look where he got to. And with that, he used that to champion, to say, look, when you're down and out, there is always a way back. And I think that does a lot when that's reached a lot of people, especially off the back of Joe Rogan podcasts and more. That does that gives you a lot of currency, I think, to say that he's done a lot of good as well. As I mean, bad sportsmanship that happens, lies and gaslighting. I mean, is it not a job of a fighter to promote themselves as well too and embellish sometimes? You got to take with sometimes Tyson with a pinch of salt. Jack Dutton says AJ should take White rematch. White is returning on that Ipswich bill. We'll see what he looks like. I wasn't too impressed with Dillian in his fight with Ebenezer Tete, especially in the light of the way Fraser Clark dispatched Tete when he had the opportunity. Magic also says, I know it sounds harsh, but I'm not alone with enough of this fool's antics. It's just the way he sounds. I'd rather someone give you have an opinion, positive or negative, about a boxer as opposed to indifference. They say in the wrestling world, when someone comes out and the music hits and there's no reaction, it's probably the worst position you can be because you're probably out the door pretty soon because you can't draw a ticket. But if you can, if you people love you, and you can if people don't like you, because if they don't like you, they'll watch to see you get beat.